everyone. Welcome to another episode of Brain Scratch Case Cracked. I'm your host, John Lorden. Thank you for spending a little time with me today. And before I get started, I'd like to give a big thank you to Brain Scratch researcher Babel Froggy for sending in this case. I asked you guys last week for some help, and I got a bunch of great suggestions. So thank you to all of you that submitted case ideas for Case Cracked. This is the case of Pamella Jackson and Cheryl Miller, a missing persons case that would go on for many decades before it was solved. Let's see what the twists and turns in this story are. Rolling back to May 29th, 1971 in Alcester, South Dakota. Pamella Jackson and Cheryl Miller were juniors at that time at Vermillion High School, coming up at the end of their junior year there in May. A friend said Pam was a seamstress and very well liked. She would bake cakes for their birthdays and have slumber parties. Both of them were very outgoing and nice girls, just wonderful people. Cheryl was driving a 1960 beige Studebaker Lark that belonged to her grandmother. Pam came along with her to actually visit that grandmother in the hospital. Apparently her health was not doing too well, so Cheryl wanted to stop by and visit her. But after they did, they went to a local church parking lot and met up with some friends there that were going to a party at a local gravel pit. So they decided to follow them in the Studebaker. The friends, which were primarily a car full of male classmates, said that they saw that the girls were following them for most of the drive, but they missed a turn. The men missed a turn at one point, and when they looked behind them, they didn't see the girls anymore. So the girls were actually not known to be regulars at these types of parties, so the other teens there assumed that they had probably changed their minds and decided to do something else with their night. But the girls never made it home either. They would eventually be called in as missing persons. The gravel pit was searched, as well as surrounding roads and even the Missouri River, but the girls and the car just were never found. Police records that were later released would eventually show that law enforcement believed that they were both runaways, willingly leaving their family behind. Cheryl's grandmother died very shortly after they visited her that night. And if we fast forward over about 33 years here, in June of 2004, South Dakota forms a new cold case department and looks into this case again. A few months later, they obtain a search warrant for a farm that convicted kidnapper and rapist David Lycan lived at in 1971. He was already serving a 225-year sentence for his previous crimes. They think that he may be involved in the disappearance of Pam and Cheryl and at least 3 more unnamed murders. Lycan had rode the school bus with Cheryl Miller when they both attended Beresford School in the 1960s, and Lycan knew both girls through church. Law enforcement search the farm grounds, and they discover bones, clothing, a purse, photographs, and even a newspaper clipping specifically about Pam and Cheryl missing. They actually conducted several searches on the farm, but they were never able to find the car. Police documents would later show that Lycan's own sister provided information that led them to that farm search, and she claimed to have seen the bodies of Cheryl and Pam in the car at the farm. In July of 2007, the Union County Grand Jury indicts David Lycan on several charges, including the murder of Pam and Cheryl. His trial is scheduled to start the following March of 2008. And they supposedly have a taped confession from Lycan as he's talking to a jailhouse snitch named Aloysius Black Crow. However, just weeks before the trial would start, the grand jury would drop all the charges against David Lycan. The confession tape was faked. Aloysius had another inmate act like he was David Lycan during the taping of the faked confession. Mr. Black Crow would later be charged with perjury. So what happened to the girls? Well, we have to fast forward even a little farther. 42 years after their initial disappearance, in September of 2013, the water level at Brule Creek is very low. A local fisherman is out there and he spots the wheels of a vehicle upside down in the water near a bridge. He contacts authorities. They immediately recover a hubcap that matches a 1960 Studebaker Lark. They also see the license plate on the car, which is still intact and easily readable, and they confirm that that car was once owned by Cheryl Miller's grandfather. The car was still in third gear. The keys were still in the ignition. The switch for the headlights was still on, and there was damage, severe damage to one tire. Quote, all the evidence would appear to indicate an accident, South Dakota Attorney General Marty Jackley said. The car did not contain any evidence such as cans or bottles referring to any alcohol being involved here. And their friends noted that they wouldn't have had time to stop somewhere to pick some up, at least from the time that they met up with them at the church parking lot. They likely just were trying to follow the men in the car ahead of them, and possibly because of the dirt and dust kicking up on this dirt and gravel road, they didn't notice there was a new bridge that had actually been put in there, and it seems like they missed the bridge and drove into the creek. Pamella's father passed at the age of 102, only 5 days before the car was found. Due to his funeral service, there were many family members in the area during the discovery. Further analysis of the car would uncover 2 sets of human remains. DNA would then confirm that they were indeed Pam and Cheryl still in the vehicle. They also found Cheryl's purse with photos, notes from classmates, and even her driver's license still intact. In terms of the bones and those other items that were found back on the lichen farm, they obviously weren't Pam or Cheryl, and I didn't see any news out there about those items being used to charge David with other crimes. You know, occasionally when bones pop up, they're later found out to be animal bones or something along those lines. It's kind of hard to chase, but it seems like that information is a dead end in terms of this case. What I did notice was a trend of articles about other confessions very similar to the one that David supposedly gave Aloysius. Apparently, Aloysius pops up in other cases with confessions as well, and those were now being questioned, and even possible retrials were being discussed because of Aloysius being part of those cases and him now having this severely damaged credibility. Heck of a case, isn't it? It's strange because you have a man here in David Lycan that is obviously a very bad person, but if you look into the history of his crimes as well, the MO just really didn't match this. All of his kidnapping and rape charges had to do with people that he was dating, that he was intimate with for an extended period of time. And obviously, yes, he did know these girls, he knew them through church, but it's very different. He did not have a relationship. He was not the boyfriend of one of these girls. There was another little note in here about he might have been closer to them than we're aware. Someone overheard a conversation that Pam was having with a man named David on a phone, and she was talking about that David had hurt her hand in a car door. And later, another piece of info that came out is Pam's father saying that he believed that her hand was hurt that night when a man tried to pull her into his car. So some people are wondering if that was indeed David Lycan at that point, but we don't have confirmation on that or not. Pamela's father, that passed at the age of 102, apparently there was a note in his obituary that his biggest regret was never knowing what happened to his daughter. But 102 is a heck of a long time to live. I personally wish he could have eked out that other 5 days to hear the conclusive answer to that. But that is it. Case cracked. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here, and thanks once again to Babel Froggy. This was certainly an interesting case. I really didn't expect to have that twist in the middle of it about a possible conviction coming towards David Lycan for this, and then that turning out to be false because of someone faking a confession tape. That's the first time I've heard that. Apparently David Lycan's voice is also very distinct, and some of the legal teams that were gearing up for this case listened to the tape and they were like, that's not David Lycan. So very, very curious case. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next show on the Lord Nards channel.